Hi, I'm still on the boat somewhere in Venice. Nice to see you. Anyways, game design, tabletop RPGs. Some folks from the last video asked what I meant when I talked about CRMs or conflict resolution mechanics, and I figured if you're going to be making games from the get-go, I should probably cover them. Conflict resolution mechanics, or CRMs, or even game/system engines are what you kind of use to navigate your game. On the system designer, content designer, narrative designer trifecta, CRMs are usually the love child of like system designers and represent those like building blocks, the seed of every game system. When you or a group of you encounter a problem, how do you tackle that? How does that get resolved? Do you need a series of attributes or stats? Are these attributes raw numbers? Are they assigned to dice? Are they pools of dice? Do you get one for every 5 a larger value has? Do you need skills or approaches from like Fate RPG? Again, are they raw numbers, dice sizes, pools of dice? Do you add the stats and skills together? Do you have proficiencies? Additional dice to roll? What dice do you roll? D6s, D8s, D10s? Do you roll many of them for a different advantage or disadvantage? Do you swap dice for different sizes? Do you roll D8, D4 plus D6? Heck, do you even eschew dice entirely? And maybe you go for cards. Playing cards, tarot cards, some random cards you like made for your own deck, like Phoenix Dawn Command. Do you draw off the top? Do you have a small hand to play to trigger abilities? How important are the suits and facings? Do you need to do all of this again between checks and damage? Do you do them separately? Do you have a non-violent equivalent in task-based effort rather than damage? All these are really important questions, and not what people think about is involved in making an RPG sometimes. Every single choice you make here matters, and it's going to be done over and over again by your players, no matter what. Conflict resolution is the core of literally every RPG as part of the tabletop loop, as like encountering conflicts and obstacles and difficulties and then solving those problems. Conflicts can look like anything, like a goblin enemy to fight, a cliff you need to jump over, a lock you need to pick, or maybe you're just doing a school game and Stacy got you banned from prom, and maybe also somehow is using prom as a ritual to summon aspect of Cthulhu. It's the core of literally every tabletop RPG. Okay, aside from story games, which sometimes don't involve any conflict resolution, more so story prompting, or if this is how they do it, it's very, oh, this is how I solved it narratively, which for me reads a lot to me like a bunch of 2004 forum, I hit you, no, I'm invincible, I have an invincible shield forum role-playing, but I've got stigma against a handful of solo RPGs, don't mind me, I can talk about that in another video. Yada yada. Look, anyways, it's the core of most tabletop RPGs, and so important you'll likely be coming back to it, back and forth as you work on your game, which can lead into that designer like dead end of starting and stopping, and restarting and restopping as you constantly tweak your CRM. And this is why I don't really fault anyone for defaulting to D20 mod systems, because let's be honest, for all of its problems, they're really easy to work with a design for. Really easy. Make some stats or skills or both, toss down the D20, add some numbers. With a D20, each number cleanly translates to 5%. So bonuses or negatives are just insignificant enough that you could be stacking them, but just significant enough that if you do stack them, they can break the game. And if you want to find ways to stop people from breaking a game, let's talk about today's sponsor. Me! Fam, I like tabletop RPGs, and there are not enough sponsors interested in sponsoring someone that doesn't do tabletop RPG reviews, and instead only talks about how to improve your overall game design sense. So if you want to support a passionate individual, you should like, subscribe, that, or check out my Patreon. Think of it like a monthly tip jar towards your cool tabletop RPG being me. Other than that, you can also just check me on Twitch. I do that too. Probably could be less fun than this. Anyways, so not to start a segue after a segue, but I feel I should be giving you more advice as to what to do, like specific examples, give you a nice, here are 3 things you could do to improve your RPG design right now. But I don't think it's that easy. So there's this chart called the competence hierarchy. It details 4 levels of competence. There's going to be a chart like right here-ish, if I remember to edit it in. First, at the very bottom, is unconscious incompetence, where you don't know how you're bad, and you don't even know how bad you are. You haven't even tried the thing. Next is conscious incompetence. You know you're bad because you've fallen over a few times, and now you want to be better, but you know you're still bad. Next is conscious competence. You know how to be good. You can repeat steps in the process to produce good results, like consistently. Next is unconscious competence. You no longer need to try to be good because you've absorbed these lessons unconsciously. Now, like, what I like to do is highlight these elements in my rants, and I'm trying to help people be aware of how there's a lot they don't know, and that they can fix that by learning how much they don't know, you know? By learning the places where design fails and succeeds, you can learn to consciously navigate with that in mind and avoid pitfalls of bad design. And that's only something you learn after falling into that pit, like on purpose and non-stop. You have to understand the purposes of these systems, where they're sensitive to breaking, the benefits to other CRMs you might want to explore, but also understand why CRMs might not be suited for like the kind of game you want to run. What seems like a fairly straightforward definition, the conflict resolution system, is actually super deep. Yet, a CRM is going to be utilized more than anything else about your game, so it needs to be either simple and straightforward or fun. Because this is the one thing in the game that your players will not be able to ignore. You could even watch any number of videos that'll tell you to like either follow the golden rule. If there's a rule you disagree with, change it. Or if there's a rule you can't remember or agree on, make a ruling for now and just check it later. Hot tip, most of the time they won't actually check later. These two situations can, and often will, be applied to any rule outside of your CRM. Swimming rules, grappling rules, arguing rules, encounter rules, chase rules, relationship rules, literally every rule can be eschewed for convenience at the table. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but it is just something to account for. What ultimately can't be ignored, however, is your CRM. When the rule is issued, it's usually done so for simple resolution because it is accessible due to it being both easy to remember and needing the least amount of reference. Outside of, say, Rollmaster, any game that requires table referencing for its basic CRM typically fails or eventually hemorrhages players. And honestly, I can't remember a lot of people playing Rollmaster right now. Your CRM is literally the seed, the building blocks, the core of your game, because when all else fails and there's no rule to reference, or one the players can't be bothered to reference, they will always default to the main conflict resolution mechanic. So, considering that's going to be the most used, you're going to want it to either be fast and unobtrusive, like roll a die, add a bonus, or you want it to be really fun, pulling a Jenga block. Funny enough, I was actually like looking through like old documents back from like 2008, 2010. I found right when I was beginning at tabletop RPG stuff, I found this little document I kept that said good mechanics to remember, things to always refer to, always reference, and maybe incorporate in future games. And the only good mechanic I had written in there in like 10 years was Dread. Use Jenga blocks, use them to make pulls. And I still sing Jenga's praises to this day. So, you know, maybe you should be looking at how to incorporate Jenga more as a CRM. Did you know some LARPs, did they call it Kingdom or something? There's a LARP in the UK that specifically uses Jenga blocks to perform surgery. So you like make pulls and you need a certain amount of pulls in order to like recover someone, else they die. It's absolutely fascinating. Absolutely love it. Anyways. But also, you want your CRM to be robust enough to support complex gameplay. Because the less complex the game, the less advancement baked into it, the less likely it'll be played much longer than 1 or 2 sessions. If your goal is to create single session experiences, let's say like 10 candles, that's perfectly fine. If you want anything past that, be it 2 or 3 or 6, or the endless campaign, ooh, spooky. If you want any amount past that, you need to make sure that your CRM is capable of facilitating it. And that means it needs not only numerical bonuses, +1, +2, it can also mean additional die rolls or card draws, all advantage. It might offer abilities that don't act in the access. You need things that support advancement, growth. Numerical bonuses also don't always apply well to most dice systems. There's a reason, of course, why the D20 is chosen. In a D20 system, a +1 is only 5%. In a D10, that's 10%. In a D6 system, a +1 is worth 16. It's why most games tend to default to double systems like 2D6, 2D10, and so on, because the D20 is really like the lowest possible platonic value that you're capable of like charting equally what a +1 looks like. That doesn't skew it into the inside blobs of a 2d6, 2d10, which go into the averages. But okay, let's look at some other examples of CRMs. Also, as an aside, don't you love that I have like a 2-camera setup now? It's so cool. Look, so the most famous CRM that you know of is probably the D20 mod system. Roll D20, add some numbers. It's super fast resolution-wise and probably the most balanced when it comes to +1 modifiers and the such. These get rapidly crunchy if you're not mindful of all of the different kind of modifiers, but for the right kind of players, this is enormous fun. Big number, go brrrr. This also does really well supported with stats and skills, as it allows you to kind of get like more consistent success rolls, but like ultimately the scaling requires the GM to scale the difficulty every time or like over time just to keep the game like going at a good pace. And it's very easy for like this kind of game to lead to very like, you know, big winners, low losers. It's especially if you don't get optimized enough. It's a little tricky, but it's super easy, super clean to like establish. Next up, you have the classic 2d6. As much as it sounds like it has 12 results, it actually has like 11 and like king of the bell curve. This type of CRM allows consistent middle rolling with allowances for critical hits and such. However, due to bell curving, the +1 becomes stupid impactful. So you can't just be like throwing these bonuses here and there easily. You have to be way more careful with bonuses to actually deal with balance. There's also tarot cards. Tarot cards are common in CRM in indie games because it's considered like interpretive, but what a lot of people don't realize is the CRM is based off entirely like the major arcana. It can generate 22 results rather than 20, so approximately 4.5% for any given result. So it acts really similarly to the D20, like really similarly, but also allows something I call skill triggers. Abilities that can pop off only when the associated card is called, regardless of who draws it. Could be an enemy, could be your friend. If someone is pulling up a card, it's like, wait, that's my card. I get an ability. That's really cool. So like, imagine someone has the 1, like someone has the magician for the 1, but whenever the 1 pops up, let's say I get to draw 4 cards, and that on my turn. That's super neat. It has a lot of potential mathematically, but it's like super underutilized because of its esoteric nature. Next up, dice pools. Blades in the Dark, any World of Darkness game falls under this. This is where they're looking for like certain values. You're looking like the 5 to 6 on a D6 or the 9 to 10 on a D10. This works exceptionally for like skills and attributes as you become an obvious specialist in what you do. That said, because there's so much more room to fail, you can find yourself in really interesting scenarios as long as you have the right mindset. Alright, last in these examples, and like exploding steps or exploding dice, a la Kids on Bikes or Savage Worlds, these are probably like my most favorite type of dice, as it works with like a variety of dice sizes, from the lowly D4 all the way to the D20. Every time you hit the maximum size on die, let's say an 8 on a D8, a 6 on a D6, the die explodes. Then you roll again, adding to the previous value. This allows explosive, pulpy games, where you can absolutely eat the dirt in one roll, but then pop off and do a backflip and kick your bully in the head in the next. It allows very heroic, very explosive energy. I think this is one of the more powerful CRMs, but it requires a good GM to either rate in the energy or roll with it super hard. Look at Dropout's Never Stop Blowing Up system that's based off like Kids on Bikes. Same thing, same energy. These are only like a small number of like conflict resolution mechanics in the world, but these are the most well known. There are all kinds of like weird mix-ups. I like playing with a D8 plus D12 system. I like playing with like roll under systems. I even talked about Call of Cthulhu's D100. It's super neat, good for skills, etc., etc. But you know, this is a good place to like have an idea of where you might want to start. So what do you pick? You need a fast and simple CRM because everyone is going to use it over and over, but also you need one that allows complexities to facilitate advancement. This is where, again, I don't really have a lot of answers. I tend to see these videos more about exploring TRPG topics and more exploring potential TRPG philosophy and like game design philosophy. And because there's never a good answer to what's the best, even D20 has its faults. 2d6 has its faults, so Powered by the Apocalypse players can't be like, oh no, we're the best. Because, you know, +1 and that one has far less value than in almost any other game. A conflict resolution mechanic ultimately depends on what your party wants out of a game. If it wants fast, quick stuff, D20, easy enough. Anyone can make a D20 game. If you want something a little more complex that leans towards middling results, Powered by Apocalypse works really well for you. If you want something that develops skills based on what you choose to do and again promote natural growth, Call of Cthulhu, a la Troubleshooters, both work really well. If you want a game that's explosive, pulpy, can get really wacky and very cinematic, Savage Worlds does that for you. Choosing your CRM is going to be a journey and a difficult one because design's not easy. That's why I'm stuck on this boat. I can't leave until I've actually made a game. Damn. Anyways, again, that's me exploring the topic. Come back next time. I'll make another video. If you want more videos about me on a boat and talking about RPG design, please let me know. Do you want maybe me doing more VTuber stuff? Do you want me to stream here on Twitch? Or YouTube? I meant YouTube. Do you want me to stream on YouTube? I already stream on Twitch. Yada yada. Do you want to maybe, you know, throw something at my Patreon? That could be really nice because that makes it easier for me to make more videos and hopefully pay editors because I really want to pay editors, but I am very poor. Anyways, thanks for popping in. Bye! Help me, I'm still stuck here.